everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Moment podcast. My name is Regine Bowe, and I am a social worker who wants to give you hope, encourage you, and help you feel less alone in your healing journey. This podcast is dedicated to helping you heal, learn, and grow to become a better version of yourself. Through education and personal experience, I will discuss topics around mental health and spirituality. So, let's get started on today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Breaking Moment podcast. I am your host, Regine Bowe, and thank you guys for joining another episode. So today I want to talk about uncertainty. And I wanted to go over this topic because I think many of us face uncertainties. I'm not going to say many. We all face uncertainties at different times of the day, different seasons of our lives. Sometimes it's more persistent than other times. It just all depends on us and our situations. So I want to talk about uncertainty and ways to manage the uncertainties of life. I want us to talk about it because I think sometimes we can be so consumed by uncertainties, by the worry of what's going to happen next, that we forget to live in the present moment. And I've mentioned this many times. Life is meant to be enjoyed. Life is meant to be lived to our fullest potential. It's not meant to always sit and worry about the next thing, because there's so many things that are uncertain in life that we may never know until we get to that point of our lives. For example, we can be uncertain about when we're going to get married. We could be uncertain about how our relationship's going to go. We can be uncertain about if we got the job when we just did the interview. We can be uncertain about if we are going to get a good grade on the test. We can be uncertain about many things in our lives. But I think when we sit and worry and let it consume us, we're taking moments out of our life that we can be focused on the present moment, and then we can worry about that thing once we get there. So we're going to be talking about the definition of uncertainty. I like to always talk about definitions so we know specifically what we're talking about. We're going to talk about how uncertainty affects our daily lives. We're going to talk about ways to deal with uncertainty, the uncertainties of our lives. And then I'm going to end with the importance of faith, because I really think faith is tied into uncertainties. According to Cambridge Dictionary, it is defined as a situation in which something is not known or something that is not known or certain. So I kind of talked about some of the examples. We really experience uncertainty all the time. We never know. We never know how the day is going to go. We can be uncertain about our days ahead. I mentioned relationships, jobs. We can be uncertain right now. Many of us were uncertain during the pandemic. When are we going to see our loved ones? When is this going to end? What does this mean? Will we get a vaccination? We could be uncertain about how we're going to do at a sporting event. We can be uncertain about so many things of our lives that I think sometimes we allow it to consume us, and then we forget to be in the present moment. Some of us also could be uncertain about if we're going to be able to pay for our car payment this month. We're uncertain about if we're going to be able to pay rent. If I want to be honest, some of us are uncertain about even when we're going to eat next, depending on your situation. And it's different for everyone, but I can tell you we all experience it. So uncertainty can affect our everyday lives, right? It is connected to the unknown. It's connected to it's connected to the future. It's connected to not knowing what's next. And I think this has to do with a lot of, and I mentioned this before, with us humans, we like familiarity because it's not uncertain. When we think about new job, new relationship, new town, new friends, new atmosphere. Yes, it can be exciting, but we all kind of have this thought in the back of our head of worry because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen in that relationship. We don't know what's going to happen at that job. Is it the right move? It's so much uncertainty. It's not a guarantee that we're making the right decision. I think so much of life is that. You don't get in everything you do, it's never like a guarantee. So we always have to live in this uncertainty. Me moving to this town, I don't know if it's going to be the right decision until I move. Me taking this job, I don't know if it's going to be the right job for me until I try it. So that's why I think it's important to realize that uncertainty really does affect everyone. And It's about how you manage it, because it's something that you can't run from, because there's so many things that are uncertain. There's so many things that you're just not going to get an answer for. So it's important that we learn to manage it. But uncertainty affects our lives because it can cause us to worry. We can worry about the future. We can ruminate. And think about this. You could think about every answer you did on the test, right? And think that this is the funny thing. And it's not really funny, but I find it interesting because I do this as well. Or I did it a lot more back then, but now that I'm aware of it, I try not to do it. If I'm uncertain about something, I will worry about it so much that I'll be thinking about it. And it almost feels like the more I think about it, the more it's going to change. I don't know if anyone's ever felt that. Like, it's like I'm thinking about that test that I took, and I'm thinking about every answer I put. Then I go back to check to see whatever I remember. I check to see my notebook to see if I got it right. But it's like, no matter how much thinking I do about the test, it's not going to change my grade. Like, the teacher already graded it. I just have to wait. Not too long ago, I had a job interview. And I had a job interview like 4 months ago, and I felt I did good. But guess what? After I got done, I was sitting and thinking about the entire interview. I was thinking about the things I said. I was looking up if I had the right answers. And then I caught myself though. And I said, Regine, no matter how much you think about the interview, it doesn't change that you did the interview, and it doesn't change that whoever's job it is to hire you or tell you you didn't get it, they will tell you. No matter how much thinking I do about it, it's not going to change the result. And I think sometimes we get stuck and we think that no matter how much we think about a thing, it's going to change it. It's not. I think it comforts us to think we are, but it's not going to change that person's mind. I think that's the main thing. So it affects us because it can cause us to be super anxious. It can cause us to ruminate. It can cause us to worry. It can cause us to experience anxiety because we are so worried and fearful of what's going to happen that we almost try to control it in our present moment. But the thing about the present moment is it's the present moment. So you can't go back and change your answers to the test. You can't go back and change what you said during the interview. You can't go back and change it. You have to live in the present moment and trust that what you did was enough. Another way it can affect us, it can cause us to procrastinate. It can cause us to postpone or delay something because we're so worried about it, because we're so uncertain about it, that we might wait to the last minute to do it because the uncertainty almost paralyzes us in a way. It makes us so fearful to do the next thing, so that it causes us to kind of move, to delay the thing that we need to do. So it can affect us by causing us to feel depressed as well. It can make us feel so overwhelmed and not even want to get out of bed. It can cause us to want to isolate because we're so uncertain of what's going to happen. I don't want to diminish how scary uncertainty is. It's very scary when you don't know what to expect. 2 years ago when I was having the breaking moment, there was so much uncertainty in my life and it was scary. I didn't know what was going on with me. I didn't know what was going to happen in the future. I was graduating. So many new things were happening and it was just a lot going on. And that uncertainty can definitely feel like it's paralyzing you. It can make you feel like the whole world is just overwhelming, like an overwhelming weight. It can make you feel so anxious and so scared. So if you are feeling that, it's okay. And it's normal. Uncertainties are so normal in life. But I hope after this episode, you will learn how to manage it and you will see it from a different perspective so that it doesn't have to paralyze you in fear. It doesn't have to make you feel depressed. It doesn't have to make you procrastinate. It can help you see that you can become aware of it and just keep moving forward and staying present. So those are some of the ways that uncertainty can affect our lives. We're going to talk about now how to deal with uncertainty. So how to deal with it? We have to focus on things that are in our control versus not in our control. This is very big. This is big with anxiety. This is big with uncertainties. This is big with worry, because when we worry and we're anxious, we're worried about things in the future, right? We're worried about things that we don't have. It's not in our view, right? We can't do anything about worrying about 2 weeks from now because we don't know what 2 weeks is going to bring. And I think it's important that we have to worry about what's in our control and worry about right now. So something that has helped me, and I think it's helped me with uncertainty, because a lot of, with uncertainty and anxiety, they can be intertwined. Most of the time, the uncertainty makes me anxious. So that's what I mean by that. So something that has helped me with it is, and I did this with my therapist, I did like a diagram, and I had one side of things that are in my control, and I did another side of things that are not in my control. And it's crazy that before I did this, there's so many things that I thought were in my control that weren't, which was causing me extra stress and worry. For example, I thought I could control how people see me. I thought I could control how people treat me. I thought I could control how people's moods. Like, I don't like seeing people sad, so I thought I could always make people happy. I thought I could, if someone didn't like me, I could make them like me somehow by being nice or whatever. But I don't control that. I can't control somebody else's emotion, how they feel towards me. I can't do that. But so I learned that a lot of things that I was trying to control or worrying about were things that weren't in my control. So of course I was exhausted. Of course I was frustrated, and I felt like I was losing in life because I wasn't focused on things in my control. So things that are in your control, these are some examples. What you say is in your control. What you say to others, what you say to yourself, what you decide, what your values and beliefs are, how you respond, how you behave, who you allow to have access to you, and who you give access to. These are just some examples. But then I realized that even though I was focused on things that weren't in my control, I learned that there's so many things that are in my control. And then once I started to focus on those things, it made me feel less anxious because I focused on things within my control. I realized that I'm doing my best in my areas of my control, so I can't get mad at myself for things that I can't control. And my uncertainties kind of didn't feel as heavy because I started focusing on what was in my control. So I encourage you to kind of write out one side, things that are in your control, and another side of things that aren't in your control. And it'll help you realize and help you to see what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on 90% of things that aren't in your control? Then of course you're going to feel anxious. Of course you're going to feel worried. Of course you're going to be depressed. Of course you're going to feel all these emotions. Of course uncertainty is going to feel like it's too much because you're focusing on the wrong things. Another way to deal with uncertainty, change your perspective. I believe that life really is about how we see it. You can sit and say, I am nothing. I am doing the same thing as I did last year. I'm doing this and that. But you are in control of what you do. So are you doing your best? Okay. Then just keep doing your best and things will work out. It's about how you perceive your world. How about you change how you perceive uncertainty? Because just think about it. We can't know everything. It is impossible to know everything because life is forever changing. And I want you to think of it this way. If I was certain of everything, then I wouldn't have the chance to grow, right? If we were certain of who we were going to marry, where we were going to live, how many kids we were going to have, what jobs we were going to live in, what friends we were going to have, if we were certain of what car we were going to get, all these things that we may worry about the test score, if we were certain about everything in life, then how would we have a chance to grow? How would we see ourselves grow in life? Because we would be certain about everything else. I see uncertainty as a way for us to see ourselves in another way. We're uncertain if we're going to get that job, right? Then when we get it, we could say, wow, I wasn't certain I was going to get it, but I did my all and look what happened. It just kind of gives you a different type of gratitude towards yourself and God, of course, because, and that, you know what? I will get into that part a little later, but change how you see it. Uncertainty can be a way that you can see yourself grow, see the people around you grow. If everyone was certain about everything, we wouldn't need to grow because we would know everything. There is blessings in not knowing it all. I know it's scary, but then once you overcome the thing, right, then you could see yourself in a different way. Like, wow, I never even knew I had that much strength. I never even knew I had that much courage. I never even knew I was a leader. I never even knew I could be a manager. You start seeing things differently about yourself. And I actually wanted to add this really quick. When we focus on things in our control and we gave our best, then that's it. When we start dwelling on, oh, but I could have, and I should have done this for her and done that. No, if you did your best today, then that's it. You do your best with what you know. You do your best and you let God do the rest. Like that's like my motto. Like I tell myself, because since I was that overworker, that overachiever, sometimes I feel like I always have to do. And sometimes I have to remind myself that, Regine, you did the best that you could today, on this Monday, on this Sunday. So you did your best. Let God do the rest. I remember telling myself that during my interview, because I was literally sitting in the car thinking about the whole interview on my way home, wondering if I said the right things, wondering if I would get the job. The next day, woke up and did the same thing. I'm starting to ruminate about it, and I'm telling myself, no matter how much thinking I do, I can't change it. So I focus on what I control, and I tell myself I did the best I could, and I'm going to let God do the rest. If you did the best you could in that moment, then what's meant for you really will be meant for you. And that's kind of like my motto now, because we really can get consumed with, I should have done that. I should have done that. Oh, I made a whole list today and I only did 3 things out of the list. Okay. Maybe today you were tired. Maybe today you had a rough day. If you did 3 out of the 10, at least you did 3, right? So I just want us to focus on things in our control. And when we've done our best in that thing, just give it to God. Another way to deal with uncertainty, focus on the present moment. That present moment, what's happening now. So if you're worried about something that's happening in 2 weeks, I'm not saying you can't prepare. Like say you have a big presentation coming up. I keep saying presentation, I think, because I just had a presentation for work. So that's kind of what's been on my mind. But okay, you could do little by little, but you can't sit here and know what's going to happen at that presentation. You can't know every question that every participant's going to ask you. You can't know what your boss is going to say about it. You can't know if you're going to mess up. You can't know if the people you work with is going to mess up. You can't know it because you're not in it. You can't know it. You can't know what's going to happen if you're not living in it yet. That's 2 weeks from now. So what you can control is how you prepare for that. Yes, you don't want to wake up the day of and just present. You can start maybe doing the PowerPoint. You could start, reading part of the script so you feel more comfortable, maybe a little bit every night. And then the day of, you give your all. But what you can't do is know what the answer is going to be 2 weeks from now. It's not going to work and it's going to drive you crazy. I'm just saying this because I've done it before. I thought I could think my way. It's almost like I thought I could think my way through the future, think my way and know what's going to happen. And 9 times out of 10, what I thought didn't happen. Why? Because I'm not there. There's so many things that happen in life that it's uncertain. You're not going to know. So focus on the present moment. No matter how much we worry, we won't change the outcome of things out of our control. It's just not going to happen. All you can do, and I'm going to keep saying this, all you can do is focus on what's in your control. You can prepare yourself the best for that presentation. You can study the best you can for the test. You can pack your stuff up and hope for the best when you go to your new town. You're not going to know if you're going to make a million friends. You're not going to know if it's going to be the right move or not until you get there. You're not going to know if this relationship is right for you until you go for it, get to know the person. So I want us to focus on the present moment. What's happening now? And some of the ways that you can help focus you on the present moment, because sometimes it's easier said than done, and it's something that I still struggle with. Sometimes I literally have to catch myself, like, oh, Regine, you're starting to do it again. Like when I had a presentation this past Friday, and I did well. Me and my partner did well, but I caught myself like the couple of days before starting to like. Yes, I planned, but I started to catch myself like ruminating a little bit, which is kind of like, I'm thinking about it, trying to change the outcome, but I can't. I'm not there. And it shows me that. And what helped me kind of to bring myself back was saying, Regine, I trust you. When you trust something or someone, you don't feel the need to constantly check in. I mean, think about a relationship, right? Or friendship. If you trust your friend, you trust your spouse, you don't feel the need to, hey, you still love me? Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I know sometimes everyone needs reassurances, but you don't every second, hey, do you still love me? Hey, are you okay? You don't feel the need to keep checking in because you trust that person. You trust what your foundation is. So one way that helped me to stop ruminating is trusting my abilities. I trust that I did my best to prepare for this presentation. I took time to plan, prepare. I presented quietly to myself for a couple of nights before, and I'm just going to go for it. And that, knowing that I trust myself, is the biggest accomplishment in the whole thing. And now I can look back at that moment and say that while I was uncertain, because I didn't know how it would happen. Yes, I could have stuttered. Yes, I could have forgot everything. Yes, my partner could have messed up. Yes, we could have got a million questions and we didn't know the answer. But those things didn't happen. It was a great presentation. And while I was uncertain, I focused on things that were in my control. And then I trusted myself through the process. I didn't ruminate about it. And when I did, I tried to catch myself and say, nope, we're going to trust ourselves. We're going to trust that we prepared. And then we go with the flow. And if I would have done bad, thank God I didn't. But if I did, I still would move past the moment. And that's the thing about uncertainty. It can be scary. Say you did move to a new town, but it's the worst thing you could have done. You can always, hopefully, and I know sometimes it's hard depending on your financial situations, but it's not the end of the world. It might feel like it, but it's not. So trust that even if you made the wrong decision in the uncertain moment, that things will work out for you. You didn't get a good score on this test, but that doesn't mean you'll get a bad score all the time. You didn't do good on that presentation, that doesn't mean you're going to mess up all the time. Maybe see what you can learn from this moment and take it to the next presentation. Take it to the next test. You moved and it's not the right place for you. Hopefully you can save up again and move somewhere else. Or maybe you just need to give it some time and things will work out for you. Focus on the present moment. There's meditation. There's guided meditations on YouTube. There's meditations that you can do. Mindfulness. I talked about meditation and mindfulness. They help us to be in the present moment because our days are hectic. There's so many things coming at us a day, and they kind of help guide us to be in the present moment because you can't change. I'm going to tell you this. You can't change what happened in the past and you can't control the future. So you might as well just live in the present moment and do everything in your control that hopefully will help you in your future. But you can't change it. So mindfulness. I practice mindfulness every single day. It just helps me to not be so absorbed by my feelings, but to let them kind of be there without me judging them. And then eventually they pass. And I know it's hard because sometimes we have feelings and emotions that we don't like. But the one saying I tell myself, and this actually helps, is even though this feeling, and I validate myself, it's important to validate yourself, And this actually goes into the next thing on how to deal with your uncertainty. Accept the uncertainty and deal with your emotions. So say to yourself, I am feeling nervous. I am feeling anxious about this situation. Be honest with yourself. I think sometimes we try to bottle it up and we don't want people to know we're uncertain. So we're like, yes, I'm good. Yes, I'm good. You're not only are you lying to the people around, you're lying to yourself. And when you do that, it just doesn't help you get through the moment. Be honest. You can be still nervous. You can still feel depressed about a thing. You still can feel worried. But be honest about it and accept it. I'm uncertain about this moment and it's making me really nervous, but I'm going to get through it, right? It's about accepting it, dealing with those emotions that come with it, and then you'll be able to move forward. It's something about when we aren't honest and when we keep things in and we don't talk about it, that they boil up. They bottle up. You have a soda and you shake it up and you have all, just like our emotions, if we bottle all our emotions up. So say you're so uncertain, but you're trying to be strong for everyone. You're trying to be strong for your family. You're not talking about your feelings. You're depressed. You're anxious. You're not saying anything. Those emotions bottle up just like a soda bottle and it's going to explode. And it's important that you accept it and deal with your emotions because it is scary, point blank period. And sometimes I literally will have conversations with myself Regine, you're really anxious today because I know that you have this big thing coming up, or I know that you're triggered right now, but we're going to do our best to get through it. And I notice that when I acknowledge it, then I'm able to sit with it and let it pass. But when we try to ignore it, it's like a knock. It's there. It won't leave. Right? And I'm sure some of you guys feel that. And maybe not with uncertainty. Maybe you feel it with anxiety. Maybe you feel it with depression. Whatever you're feeling, usually those emotions don't go until you validate them. And it's you can do everything. You can do everything in your power to run from it, but it won't leave until you deal with it. So even just say to yourself, journal about it. I feel depressed because da-da-da-da. Or sometimes we don't know. I feel depressed today, but I'm going to get through it. Tell yourself how you're feeling, and I guarantee your days will get better. But just because you acknowledged it, and then you're going to move through it. it's so funny because the one thing I noticed is, like I said in other episodes, mornings are very hard for me. That's when I'm probably the most anxious. My thoughts are spiraling. And most of the time, the thing I'm worried about in the morning, by the time I get to the end of my day, I forgot that I was even worried about it. Or if I did, it's not as heavy. So you just have to let your day go, let it flow. I talked about this in Intrusive Thoughts, where I'll look at the clouds and I'll see them pass. Or I'll look at a body of water, a river, ocean, whatever it is, and I will just watch the water continuously flow. And I'll see pretty birds in there, and I'll think of them as good thoughts. And I'll see some sticks and some muck in the water, and I'll think of them as negative thoughts. But the same thing, even though good thoughts are better than negative thoughts, no matter what, both thoughts do what? They just flow. They just flow. The birds flow in the water, the sticks flow in the water, the muck flows in the water. So I try to remind myself that even though I'm feeling these thoughts, even though I'm feeling these emotions, they're going to pass. I tell myself that because literally it happens every single day. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure when I wake up, that same thought's going to be there. Why? Also in that episode of Intrusive Thoughts, we have repetitive thoughts. But it helps me to deal with it when I know it helps me to deal with it when I know the facts about it. So I know that my brain is a thinking machine. I know that I'm going to think negative and positive thoughts, but I get a choice in what I focus on. I know that I had this thought yesterday and it's going to pass today just like it did yesterday, because it did yesterday. Sometimes you have to speak the truth to yourself, and that'll help you get through. So I recommend you trying that, So, and sometimes to help remind me, I will literally look at the clouds and watch them move, and I will tell myself, Regine, this thought is uncomfortable. This thought's making me mad, whatever. It's going to still pass, though. And 9 times out of 10, it does pass. I might not do it right away, but it does pass. So far, we talked about on how to deal with uncertainty. Focus on things in your control versus not in your control. Change your perspective. See it as an opportunity to grow. Focus on the present moment. Practicing mindfulness and meditation. And accept the uncertainty and deal with your emotions. And the last way, I want us to try to help us deal with uncertainty. And this kind of can tie into the last, with dealing with your emotions and accepting uncertainty. Try to utilize the even though, nevertheless statement. And that's the statement where I talked about, I forget what episode I talked about it, but my therapist kind of gave it to me, which is kind of how we validate how we're feeling, but then show ourselves what we're doing for that feeling. So I'm using my presentation a lot just because that was the most thing that made me anxious recently, kind of, sort of. So even though I'm very nervous and uncertain about this presentation, nevertheless, I have done all I could do to study and prepare for this moment, and I'm handling the situation the best way I can. So that in that statement, that shows me that I am feeling nervous and uncertain. So I'm validating how I feel. But nevertheless, I'm telling myself also that I did prepare, I did practice, and I'm doing the best that I can. So I think it kind of hits both ends. Because yes, we don't want to overly focus on the negative stuff. Like, I'm nervous, I'm depressed, I'm this. What are you doing about it? Hey, I got up today. And if you've been in bed for the last week and you got up today, nevertheless, I got up today. That's a good thing. So try utilizing that statement as well. So for the last part of this episode, I want to talk about the importance of faith. And I want to talk about that because I believe when we are in uncertainty, it does tie into our faith. Like I mentioned earlier, our faith in ourselves, but of course, more importantly, faith in God. Are we trusting God's plan for us? Are we trusting that no matter what happens, God has our back? Sometimes things don't make sense. Point blank period. They just don't. And as I was thinking about uncertainty, faith came to my mind because if we were certain about everything, like I mentioned earlier, how would we see ourselves grow? But also, how will we see God in it? How will we seek to God for help? How will we ask God to guide us if we know everything? I think uncertainty is tied into the word because we need to seek God. We need to have faith in Him so that we can overcome that thing, so that we can find our purpose, so that we can find the right job, so that we can find the right person. Because uncertainty makes us lean into our faith in God. And leaning to our faith in God is what God wants us to do so He can guide us to the right things in life. So I really think uncertainty is tied into our faith in God. And I think that's why in the world. That's why we have uncertainties of life. That's why we don't have everything handed to us. We have to learn things. We have to be unsure about things. We have to try new things and pray about things and all that stuff. I want to talk to us about a couple scriptures. So I'm going to read Matthew chapter 17, verse 14 through 20. And it says, "When they came to the crowd, a man approached Jesus and knelt before him. 'Lord, have mercy on my son,' he said. 'He has seizures and is suffering greatly. He often falls into the fire or into the water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not heal him.' 'You unbelieving, perverse generation,' Jesus replied, 'how long shall I stay with you? How long shall I put up with you? Bring the boy here to me.' Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of the boy, and he was healed at that moment. Then the disciples came to Jesus in private and asked, 'Why couldn't we drive it out?' He replied, 'Because you have so little faith. Truly, I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." So I know that was a little long. I initially wanted to do one verse in that Matthew, but I felt like everything needed to be connected so you can kind of understand it. And just kind of reading that, I took away that no one else could heal the boy, right? It took Jesus to. It took Jesus to heal the boy. No one else could do it. So, and he says, if you have faith the size as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. So that shows me that when we lean on to God, because no one else could heal the boy but Jesus. So when we lean on to him, when we have faith that he can do it, he will do it. Those disciples didn't have faith. They had so little faith that it didn't work out. But when we have faith in Jesus, even when it's uncertain, even if you have a faith the size of a mustard seed. So yeah, you don't really know if you're going to get the job, but you have a little faith. You don't know how you're going to get out of debt, but you have that faith. Lean into the faith. That's the thing about faith. It can't be seen, which is going to tie me to the next verse. But I don't know what you're taking from that, what I read, but what I take is it didn't happen because you had to believe in Jesus. It didn't happen until the disciples asked Jesus, why couldn't they drive it out? And he says, because you have so little faith. And he's telling them, as long as you have faith the size of a mustard seed, then you can move that mountain from here to there, and it will move, and nothing will be impossible. So that means nothing's impossible for you. No matter how uncertain it is, no matter how scary it is, nothing's impossible as long as you have a little bit of faith. Doesn't have to be, and I think sometimes we think we have to have the biggest faith in the world, but no, the size of a mustard seed. And if you don't know what a mustard seed is, you can look it up. It's really small. So that shows you that you have to believe a little bit, and it can go a long way. And the last verse I want to share with you is from Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1, which I'm sure a lot of you have heard, but if not, I'm going to read it. "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." So that's faith, right? So just like uncertainty, we can't see the future. Faith is believing in what we hope for without seeing it. That's why I think they're intertwined. You have the uncertainties of life, but you have faith that things are going to work out. You can't see it working out because that wouldn't be faith. If you knew you were going to get the job, if you knew who you were going to be married to as soon as you were born, if you knew the job you have, if you knew all these things, if you were certain about everything in life, then you wouldn't need faith because you see it. But it's about believing in what we hope for, even when we don't see it around us. This is tough. You might be the first generation to graduate college or wanting to go to college, but you can't see it because no one else around you did it. Have faith in yourself. You might be thinking bigger for a house, but you've always lived in apartments. You might have been homeless. You might have lived here and there, but you're believing, you're having faith for something bigger. Keep having faith. Keep believing in the big things because faith is what will get you there. Because of course you can't see it yet, but you got to believe and hope that through this uncertainty, something good's going to come out. Uncertainties are scary, but we have to lean into our faith, guys. So in closing, I want us to remember that uncertainties are scary because we can't see. We can't see the outcome. We don't know how things are going to work out. We don't know if it's going to work out. We don't know if we're making the right decision. Everyone faces uncertainties. You are not alone. But all you can do in those uncertainties is focus on what's in your control. Focus on what you're doing to help yourself. Focusing on what you can do in this moment, in this present moment, to help you. Remember that you don't need to know all the answers to be happy in life. Life is hard. Life is a mystery sometimes. Life is a lot of good days, bad days, weird days, okay days, uncomfortable days. It's a lot. But you don't need to know it all, because if you knew it all, you wouldn't need to lean into your faith. Lean into your faith and trust that God has a plan for you, even if it didn't work out the way you wanted it to. Have faith that God will lead you to the right way. God will lead you to the right way, and God will guide you to where you need to be. So as you deal with your uncertainties of life, remember to have faith that things will work out the way that they need to work out. And I will talk to you guys next week. I hope you have a great week. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Breaking Moment podcast. If this information was helpful, please share it with others. And if you enjoy listening, subscribe to the podcast so you can get the latest episodes. You can listen to the Breaking Moment podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Until then, I will see y'all next week.